I call it my red pill moment because it's really what it is. Just like Ann was saying earlier, a lot of these things happened to us, presented themselves to us, these changes. And I'm always a little bit more resistant. I was trying to hold on to what I already had because we felt like we had everything we needed to have. We had good lives, we had beautiful homes. But Ann always, oh no, well, we should do that because this happened. So the big red pill moment to me was when after a sickness, we decided to go to Costa Rica to recover. And I did not want to go and kind of basically says, no, we have to go. We won this trip practically for free at an auction. Let's go. You need to recover. I was sick in bed for 2 months, operation, and I was starting to walk again. And the people, and she said, let's go.
Dan, you said it was a hip operation?
Yeah, so he could have died. That's actually what completely changed the course of our life.
I'm Art Blanchford, and this is Life in Transition, a podcast about making the most of the changes we're given. As a married father of 3 teenagers, a longtime global business executive and adventurer, I've been through hundreds of transitions in my life. Many have been difficult, but all have led to a depth and richness I could never have imagined. You'll get to hear all about them on this podcast so that together we can create more love and joy in our lives, no matter what transitions we are going through. Welcome back to the next episode of Life in Transition podcast. I'm very excited to finally sit down with new friends, Dan and Ann, who are now in Costa Rica and run a wellness center called Tierra Encantada there in Costa Rica. Ann is from France and was a naturopathic doctor in California. And Dan was also a successful businessman in California before they moved to the jungle a few years ago, and a very big transition. So most welcome to the podcast to both of you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, it's really my pleasure. It's my first podcast with 2 guests at the same time. So I'm also always looking at first as we go here, and I'm really excited about that. And we can take this, I'm going to start with the same question I start every podcast, and we can take it jointly or individually. We'll see where the conversation goes. But what would you guys consider to be one of the most significant or meaningful or transformational transitions that you've been through in your life?
Definitely this one. Well, actually, there's 2 big transitions. The first one being when we met in 2015 at a Tony Robbins event in Fiji.
Oh, wow.
That was a life-changing moment for both of us.
Was that a business mastery or is it a different event?
Exactly. No, it was health and wellness.
Okay,
Retreat. We met there, and there was just so many synchronicities in our lives that we discovered when we talked. And anyway, we've been together ever since, and our life obviously took a huge turn. We were in a relationship, let go of a relationship, moved in together within a couple months, bought a house together within a couple of months. It's almost like we just knew that we were a unit, which going back to what you said, it's the first time you interview a couple. I personally don't see how I could even talk about this on my own because we're a unit. We've been
right.
So that was a huge transition. The other transition is obviously in 2019 when we came to Costa Rica to participate in a retreat. If I can talk about that, it was a plant medicine retreat.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which we had not planned.
Again, it's just a series, and our life seems to be like that. Our life seems to just present itself to us, and we just go along with it. And,
so let me ask you a question about that, because I think this is something I'm personally very curious about, and I think a lot of our listeners are too. What does it mean when you say life happens and we just go along with it? What does that feel like? How do you decide to say yes to life instead of saying no if you had something else planned? Like, what's that process like?
Well, I would say that for me, it's a big intuition. It's obvious. Of course, I have to go. I have to say yes. And sometimes I have to drag my man. He has a tendency to say, but once I'm like, okay, let's go, let's do that. And then once he's in 100% and more.
You say it's obvious, it's intuition. What does it feel like? So if I'm somebody that doesn't know intuition, right? What does it feel like? Like, what kind of energy is coming up in your body, or what kind of signals are you getting from the universe? What does that feel like to you, Ann, when it's obvious that there's something that is coming through intuition that you need to do?
It's just, I feel it in my gut. There's just no other way. I have to do that. It takes fire burning inside of me. It's just, yes, it's like, I can't do anything else. And in that situation, I don't care what other people are telling me. There's no reasoning. It may seem completely crazy from the outside.
Illogical, not rational.
Exactly, and people may try to convince me of otherwise, but I really don't listen. And that's the pattern in my life. I don't listen
Yeah.
to what other people think or say. I just
Well,
follow
there's
my gut feeling.
yeah, no, good for you. And there's a couple things that are coming up for me. One is, are you familiar at all with Byron Katie?
Oh, I
She's
love Baron Katie.
Well, the one
Yes.
she talks about this full body yes. This is what I feel like when what you're describing is I just have no other choice. I have to do it. It's coming up. That's all this energy is what she describes as a full body yes. And to whatever's a full body yes, you do it. And if it's not a full body yes, don't do it. This is the tougher one, right? To not do things that aren't. The other thing that's coming up for me that I love what you said about not caring what other people think. I've just started reading Bronnie Ware's work about regrets at the end of life. She was a
Mm.
palliative care for a long time, and I don't know how many dozens or hundreds of people through dying, and then talked to them and spent the last months with them. And then she's written this book about the regrets of the dying. And the
Mhm.
number one regret is that I didn't live my own life, but lived what I thought others expected of me.
Wow,
It's the
that's
number one regret.
wow.
Right. So I have that up on my mirror now in my
Wow.
bathroom, right? These 5 regrets, because that was the number one. Number 2, I think, was that I worked too hard. Number 3, I didn't keep in touch with my friends. Number 4, I don't remember number 4. And then number 5 was that I didn't, and this was really interesting the way that it's worded, I didn't give myself permission to be happier. Right. Like we put all these conditions on our happiness instead of just enjoying the moment. But it just made me think of those two things because you were so clear about it's such a powerful yes for you. You have such a close connection with your intuition. That's like the Byron Katie full body yes. And then also not giving a shit what other people think, which is it's a piece I've found for myself. Like midlife is an opportunity to let go of a lot of things, but some people have it stronger than others as far as worrying about what other people think. And to have that strong enough in you to know that if there's something you need to do, you need to do it regardless of what other people say or think is really kudos to you. Well done.
I think what you just said, it just kind of made me realize that we definitely have been listening to our intuition, to what felt right. We've also been pushed there a little bit. Like the pandemic, we can talk about that later, which kind of made us stay here. And I think when you do and you listen to that intuition and you move along with it, the reward are so rich and incredible. I mean, I have to pinch myself sometimes, all the time. Just being on the deck where we build this amazing healing center, and we usually finish the day there every day, and we do our meditation, or we'll do a cold plunge, or do some ozone treatment. And I'm looking at the ocean, the mountains. I'm like, holy, we just kind of built paradise, and here we are. We created that. It's overwhelming a little bit. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen in the future because we keep having intuition of other things we want to do.
So how was that, Dan? How is that different than the life before you met or before you made this jump from California to Costa Rica? Like you said that, following intuition has these huge rewards. How is it different?
I think I've always been fairly intuitive because I've always been a bit of a different than, let's say, my circle of friends. And I've always found a way to be fairly successful in my businesses. But that was definitely working in the past, more fitting as to societal norm.
Mm-hmm.
The whole idea of being successful and building a business and making money in the house and all that stuff, which I was able to acquire, only to find out later that I was not really working on what really mattered, at least to me, to my family, and to me, to grow as a person. Once we did that transition, moved here, we've learned so much about ourselves, and we learn about ourselves every day.
You said you realized you weren't working on what really matters. How did you come to that realization? Like, take us one level deeper into that because there's a lot inside that.
There is. I call it my red pill moment. Because it's really what it is. Just like Ann was saying earlier, a lot of these things happened to us, presented themselves to us, these changes, and I'm always a little bit more resistant. I was trying to hold on to what I already had because we felt like we had everything we needed to have. We had good lives, we had beautiful homes, but Ann always, oh no, well, we should do that because of this happened. So the big red pill moment to me was when after a sickness, we decided to go to Costa Rica to recover.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not want to go and kind of basically says, no, we have to go. We won this trip practically for free at an auction. let's go. You need to recover. I was sick in bed for 2 months, and I had an operation, and I was starting to walk again end of April. And she said, let's go. We
Dan,
have
you
this.
said it was a hip operation?
Yes.
Well, I mean, he had a staphylococcus aureus inside his hip joint. So they had to open the hip, scrape it, then put a thick line in his heart for antibiotics. I mean, it was a big, big deal.
Yeah.
So he could have died.
And
so.
it completely, that's actually what completely changed the course of our life, honestly, because in March, we had already planned a big trip. We were going to go for almost a month to France, Morocco, and Spain to see Joe Dispenza. Then I had actually doing
what year was this? Just to have context in the whole thing. What year was this?
February, March 2019.
19. Okay.
A few months before we finally came to Costa Rica.
Right.
So long story short, I got the operation. I recovered. We booked the trip to Costa Rica.
In May 2019.
In May 2019, the beginning of May.
I put my feet on the ground for the first time in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Okay, in May of 2019. Okay. And you, Anne, had a really strong sense about this, but then you were a little bit reluctant to go.
Because we needed the sun, we needed to rest. So I said, Dan, let's go to Costa Rica. It was super rainy in San Francisco. And I was like, you need to rest and sun. And they offer organic food, which is very important to us. So I told them, I booked the first week of May 2019. That's when we came.
Nice.
Then I had a patient, her son moved to Nosara, where we are. And she told me, you have to go to Nosara after your week. It's a beautiful place. So that's how it all started. But for Dan, continue your...
So the red pill moment was we went to Rhythmia. If you've heard about Rhythmia, well, it's a legal ayahuasca center in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
They're fairly very well organized, and they have doctors and all that stuff. So you go there, and it's all-inclusive retreat, and you're basically sitting down. I think there's 4 ceremonies with different shamans and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I did not want to do the ayahuasca, but after being there, and there's so many people and you talk to, and there's talks during the day, and we basically got convinced. I was like, all right, well, there's nothing to lose. Let's just try it.
Right.
It was 1 week of intensive 4 days of ceremony. And you're basically, if you've experimented with psychedelic, it was a very profound experience.
Yeah.
One in which I kind of had a vision of me being on top of a mountain and building a community, and one of many visions. And once we got back after this, we found Nosara, and we decided to look at properties. I always invested in properties, and the price of properties here compared to California was a lot more affordable, and even though it's not really that cheap in Nosara, but compared to California, it still is.
Right.
And we weren't really attached to anything, but we had a plan for the future because we were running retreats already the last 3 years in Bali. We had a plan of building our own retreat center for our retirement days.
Okay. And the retreats you were running in Bali, were those also health focused, like recovery focused retreats?
Yes, I was bringing my patients to detoxify. My specialty as a naturopathic doctor and acupuncturist was to help people come back to their own health through detoxification and connecting to self and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, no, wonderful. Obviously being in nature helps a lot with that, right?
Yeah. So Bali was a little far. A lot of my patients could not travel over there from San Francisco. So when we found Costa Rica, we thought, that could be a good alternative. So we jumped in very quickly. So we were supposed to stay in Nosara for 3 days. We ended up staying for 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Travel, we make little plan, but nothing sealed. Like we don't book ahead of time hotels.
Right.
We'll see how it goes. We can stay longer. So we ended up meeting incredible people everywhere we would go, the beach, the restaurant, the yoga class. So after 3 weeks, we had seen nothing of Costa Rica whatsoever, just Nosara and the place of plant medicine. And then at some point, the real estate agent, he had showed us property for 3 days and nothing was appealing. And we didn't really care because it was just a thought for long term.
Right.
So as he was driving us back to the hotel, I asked him, I said, hey, I hear that in Nosara, there are it's a hub of healers. Can you connect me with someone? And he was like, oh, yes, call this woman Nadine. She's a shaman. She does a lot of amazing work. She might not be around. She travels a lot. So, but fine. So I called. She's there. She's inviting us the next day. So we push again our trip for 1 more day.
Right.
We meet her the next day. And out of the blue, she's like, oh, you guys looking for a house? because she knows the agent put us in touch. And we're like, we're just looking, but no. And she says, what kind of a house are you looking for? Because 2 days ago, I was having lunch with one of my friends. She's 77 years old. She lives on top of the mountain by herself with her 2 dogs, and her husband died 3 years ago. And she cannot maintain the property, and it's not safe. If she fails, nobody would know. So I'm trying to convince her to sell her house, to go back to the States, to stay with her daughter. And so let me call her. Maybe she will be open to show you the house. So she calls her, and the lady is like, oh, okay, maybe they can come tomorrow. Push one more day.
One more day, yeah.
And the next day, the shaman, the lady Nadine, brings us here at Tierra Encantada.
So that's what you bought, was this place that you own now.
That place was not for sale. It was an
Right.
There was nothing. There was just the main house. There was no landscaping, no pool. There was absolutely nothing. Bats living in the house. But the energy of the place, it's a vortex. It's extreme beauty. There's no neighbors. The nature is so vibrant, and we were like in awe. And the structure of the house is very, very special. The little lady was a healer. So she was a magical little witch in the mountain.
Right.
In love. So long story short, that was in May 2019, and we bought the property. We had the keys in November 2019.
Wow.
But literally 2 days before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So.
We came here to get the keys.
At that time when you had the keys, so this is all what you were talking about, following your intuition and serendipitous and universe guiding, or God, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, this is very interesting path. So you had these keys in November. Did you, at that point, was this, okay, something still for later? Or when did you decide, we're moving there now too?
No, at the time we had decided we're going to spend the holidays there. It was Thanksgiving, and we had friends and family invited. We're going to celebrate the holidays, Christmas with some friends. And we didn't quite know yet. The idea is, first we need to remodel the house. We're going to add 1 or 2 casitas, and that was the extent of our plans. And with the idea of maybe running a few retreats once in a while. But
so like you did in Bali, this would be the place where you come from California with your patients for a week or two.
We had our careers back home, where we had just remodeled our house back home. So we were in California. That's where our life was.
I had a brand new clinic. I mean, we had a nice, sweet life.
I had a brand new restaurant that I had built a clinic for, remodeled our house. We were not going anywhere.
Right.
But that was just the price was right, and we had 4 acres of land, with beautiful. We're just gonna, over the years, build something nice there.
And we were honestly wondering, oh crap, what did we get into? Not
right.
Gonna happen.
Yeah. It
also takes a fair amount of maintenance in the jungle to keep buildings up, keep the jungle at bay. And
I started remodeling the house right away and fixing leaks and this and that. And we went back to California on January 6th, I believe, and bought a ticket to come back here in February.
Yeah, because Dan decided to fill a container full of tools to remodel the house.
Right, to bring it over here. Yeah, sure.
And bought some things like plumbing items that are hard to find, whatever.
Yeah. And then he tells me, hey, honey, if we go to Costa Rica more often, maybe we should put our house on Airbnb so we can have money to come in to invest in Costa Rica. And at first, I'm like, I'm attached to my stuff. I'm like, what do you mean, our home on Airbnb? And I want nobody in my bed, and it's just a brand new remodeled house. And then I started thinking, I was like, you know what, you're right. It's just material stuff. So the whole month of January, we worked so hard to fill up a container of tools and to put our house on Airbnbs, because we had to go back in February to receive the container in Costa Rica.
Oh, right.
So at the end of January, we basically had packed our home and went back to Costa Rica and put our house on Airbnb. And we got our container literally like a few days before the whole craze of the pandemic started happening.
Shut down the world.
They were telling us they're shutting down the airport. So if you're a tourist in Costa Rica, that's your last chance to go back. And we were in shock. It was like, what's going on? We looked in San Francisco, people were getting locked down in their home, and we're here in the middle of paradise. So we just like, we're not going back. They can shut down the airport. We're staying. But thinking a few weeks, we had no...
It's going to be, a few weeks, it's fine. You need that time to do the work on the house anyway, and you've rented your house for a month.
Exactly. And for us, it was There was no reason for us to go back. It was a strong intuition again that no, this is where we need to be. We're going to ride it over here. She called her daughter that was in Cincinnati with her granddaughters. They actually flew. They got the last plane to Costa Rica.
Oh, so they came and joined you for COVID.
Oh, because I was like, oh my God, she has 2 little daughters. They're gonna be locked down here. We're in paradise. So
Right. And you have all this outdoors and no people. And
yes, so they came. The whole family came like the day after they shut down the airport.
The day before.
Yeah, the day before. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So how many of your children and grandchildren were with you then during COVID?
Just my daughter, 2 granddaughters, and her husband.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So, I mean, again, most people suffering through COVID and you guys are paradising through
It was a
COVID.
blessing for us because also one thing that happened is that this is a touristic area that locals leave because of tourism. So now they had no more job, nothing happening. And that's how we started talking. Well, like we keep meeting incredible people. It's like one thing after the next. So Dan was like, why don't we start building a little, we met somebody that does houses with reclaimed wood, fallen trees. So he came and started building a house for us. We were not supposed to build, but we're in the middle of the jungle and the people are hungry and they need work.
Yeah, and they need something to do. And yeah.
Build an incredible crew of people.
Yeah. So yeah, we were able to remodel our house. We added a pool, which we needed.
And you're doing all this during COVID when the rest of the world is shut down.
Oh yeah, and we weren't supposed to because everybody's supposed to be at home.
Yeah, but people need to work and need to eat and need to connect with each other too.
Nobody know. We were in the middle of nowhere. Nobody knew we were having.
Right.
Right.
Nobody's coming to bust your party like they would in San Francisco.
Exactly.
Yeah, but we were having healthy parties because here in Costa Rica, we're an amazing group of people and we don't drink alcohol. We have parties with kombucha and coconut water. And it's fun.
Yeah.
Awesome. That sounds wonderful.
And then the rest of the story is basically, as you know, as we all lived through it, especially in the States, and the country was shut down for a good year, right? And even after that, it kind of the restrictions and the mask and this.
Yeah, some places were shut down. Some places weren't shut down, right? It depends where you live.
California was
California was shut down hard, and I live in Tennessee, and Tennessee was not shut down. I remember I went out for my anniversary dinner with my wife in the end of April, and we were already back open, so we were shut down for a month.
Wow.
Nice.
And then I went out, and I remember everyone's wearing masks and gloves and everything to be safe, right, and be smart. But we went out that was the first time we'd been out in a month, was for our anniversary in the end of April during COVID. So it wasn't as shut down here as it was in other places.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you guys were there. And so then your daughter and her family stayed there with you, Anne, for a year or a year and a half? Or
in
about 6 months.
Yeah.
6 months. Okay. But what a great time to be together, huh?
Oh, no, that was amazing, really. And for my granddaughters to be little Mowglis in the jungles, that was so cool. It was special times. And then again, we kept serendipities. We kept building an amazing community of like-minded people. We found these amazing French people. They do hempcrete walls, all because we build all eco. We're very concerned with the environment. We grow our own food. We do biodynamic permaculture. I mean, we're very, very picky with everything as far as the environment and lifestyle. So, and people kept just showing up. When now people come around and ask us, how did you do all this? Did you have a master plan? Who is your architect? And we just like, no, nobody, nothing, no plan, nothing just happened.
Wow.
He's the plan. He's the master genius behind the construction.
It turned out a lot bigger than we had planned for, not planned for. We ended up buying a total of 22 acres of land because at first we had 4 acres. And during the pandemic, there was a period when there was a lot of speculation going on. Everybody was moving into Nassau. It seems like there was a burst of foreigners coming in and buying land, and the prices were shooting up. And they were starting to try to sell the lands next to us. And as we're building more casitas and the Maloca and the healing center, we're spreading out slowly, and we're looking. It's like, well, do we want neighbors over there? So we ended up buying all the land around us as much as we could.
Right, to keep it quiet.
Yeah, so we have about almost a quarter mile on each side around us with no houses. Sorry. And
just knock Ann out of the picture here.
We've
And
occupied.
how much, and I know you said you raise a lot of food there and stuff too. Is it all like raised bed gardens, or do you have like arable, tillable fields as well, or?
We have a couple of greenhouses. There's a lot of bugs in Costa Rica, so we have to, some of the stuff, it's better if it's covered.
Right,
We have beds, raised bed. There's a little bit, it's kind of everywhere around us. We've
right.
planted over 1,000 trees since we've been here 4 or 5 years ago. A lot of fruit trees, so we have an abundance of bananas, plantains, papayas, and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
Sweet
the
potatoes.
papayas and mangoes and avocados, I remember
Yeah.
in Costa Rica, were
Avocado,
just
we
out of this world and huge. Well, the mangoes, some of them are the small ones, the wild ones,
no, the smaller
but
ones are not as good.
but
The
there are
big ones,
some this size as well. And then the
Yeah.
avocados are also just
Yeah.
crazy good.
yeah.
When I was there in Nosara, which is also, we talked about this a little bit before we hit the record button, but it's the only place I've been in Costa Rica is exactly where these guys have their wellness retreat as well in Nosara. So
Same thing with, as far as we didn't also have much of a business plan as we were building this retreat center.
right,
Just people just kind of are finding us. And well, we also met some amazing people that became friends, and they were used to running retreats. They're from Quebec, French Canadian.
oh wow,
They're the one who did their first retreat here, was breath work and yoga retreats.
nice,
And they have such a huge network of people that have been following them for some 10, 15 years in Quebec that just created all this buzz about our place. And now we have all these demand and people coming from Quebec, other retreat hosts from Quebec, a lot of them.
to use your place to host
This
their
is their
retreats.
place. So, for example, we're fully booked right now till May of 2025.
Wow,
With no marketing. And that's
no
another-
marketing. It's all word of mouth.
And the funny part is when we bought the property at first, we brought friends with us to look at the property, and they were thinking we're crazy. They was like, there's nothing
Yeah,
here.
who's going to come
Who's
here?
gonna come? People want to be by the beach. They don't want to be in the mountains and driving on crazy roads. And what's your business plan? How are you gonna make it work? Make it happen? And we really don't work like that. I've never created a business plan in my
Wow.
life. Never made a plan in my life. We keep going with what presents itself. And
Wow.
now when they come here, they're blown away. They're like, what?
right.
Created this in 4 years and you booked and marketing. And so they're like, okay, we get it.
Correct. Wow, but that's really inspiring. I mean, it's really amazing, quite frankly, to have any place, anywhere that's booked through a year
Yeah.
out is really something. And especially a wellness retreat. And like you said, to do it without marketing, and not just without that, but building community the whole time,
Yeah.
right? That you're finding and connecting with your people, with your community.
And I would say they come to us really. I mean, I often don't even go out of my mountain. People ask me
Right.
to go in town. Once in a while, I go down for a sunset or early walk, morning beach walk. But the truth is, I have so much social life here on the mountain. There are people from all over the world that come and find us and stay, and very interesting people. It's so soul nourishing. Then we really feel complete. If you would give me multi-billion dollars and tell me, okay, find a place where you want to go, I don't want to go anywhere else than where I am right now.
Right. Oh, that's awesome.
It's our dream. There's nothing I want more. We feel so lucky. We really have it all.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's simple, but so fulfilling. The connection we have with nature, with the local, with people, with, I don't know.
With food, with ourselves.
Yes, the growth. I mean, we're learning every day. It's an opportunity to become better. And I don't know. I desire nothing else.
I
Really.
love that. I had this quote that came to me one morning in early morning meditation that is, life is not some monument to be built, but an unfolding adventure to be experienced.
I love that.
That
This
is,
it.
that's-
Exactly.
And I think of what you guys are doing. It's like your life is just, it's not a plan. It's not a monument. It's
No.
not a Taj Mahal. It's
No.
an unfolding adventure that you're continuing to experience and dance, or let life dance you, maybe even is
That's
Yeah.
very, yeah. I love
And
that.
then
a better way to say
we
it.
have zero attachment to material things, like to
I don't know
this.
about that.
I mean, not for me anyway. I don't really care about money. I do need it. We do have a lot of abundance. The money comes.
Right.
We're able to create abundance. But my plan is not to make money. My plan is to create an experience for the customers that come here, for myself, not just for the customers. 'Cause
Right,
all the
yeah,
experience-
yep.
All the experiences that we're creating is a representative of how we see life, right?
Yeah.
And just people, like Anne was saying, are finding us. And same thing with the spa. We created the spa less than 2 years ago. We finished it. And again, we built something fairly a good sized spa, maybe 1,400 square feet, 4 different
Right.
rooms. There's a fifth one there. And I thought, oh man, we went a little overboard, didn't we? What are we going to do with that? Now we're just like, oh my God, we're running out of space. She's booked all the time. Even this right now, it's the low season. All the locals in town now know who Anne is. They all come to her and they all tell their friends, and people are calling us from everywhere in the United States. Hey, I'm coming to SAR soon. And I book? I heard you're pretty busy. And it's just been an amazing business for us, honestly. And
Because what we do is, for me, I look at nature. The nature is my biggest teacher. So when people come, my inspiration, my goal is to help them get back to themselves, because we are all. That's not true that we're broken. No, we think we're broken. We have stories in our head but it's just stories. It's not the reality. So being in such an environment, feeding them amazing life, farm to table food, and connecting their feet on the ground to this magical jungle, and being in the sun and giving them treatment that helps them align back to their body. This is healing. There is nothing else but falling back into your own power. It's so much easier to do that when the environment, and we're in a vortex of energy that is just, you come to the spa deck and you're like, wow,
Right.
healing right there. And then it's just tools. Yes, I do ozone, use a lot of ozone saunas. I do incredible technology with sound that helps rebalance the autonomic nervous system. And there's so many things, and people just love the experience because
they come home to themselves.
Experience. Yes.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. I'm thinking now, I mean, we've talked through so much stuff. I'm curious, looking back, let's say back to, I mean, maybe even 2015, but definitely 2019, like for these two big transitions. One was, finding each other, and one was finding Costa Rica. What would your life be like now if you hadn't made those transitions? Like if you played forward the other path, if you think about the Dickens process, since we've both done Tony Robbins, right? How he has you play one path and then the other. What would your life be like now if you hadn't made these transitions?
I mean, honestly, I can't even imagine. I can't.
Well,
it's just, I don't know.
No, but we have to think about this for a second. What if we didn't have those opportunities? What if we didn't take those opportunities? I think one of the deeper feeling that we both had, Ann and I, we were already on a searching path.
Sure, yeah.
We were both part of the Tony Robbins in 2015. That's where we met. We were
right. Yeah, you're not doing Tony Robbins if you're not searching, right? That's
exactly.
Good. That's good crew. Yeah.
I did a full 2 years. I did one full year, and that's where we met Ike and a bunch of really interesting people. And we continued to search after that. We didn't stay with Tony Robbins, but we were going to India and meditation retreats. And we were always looking for something. And I think whether we would have done that, I think we would have done something else, probably just as grand, just because that's the path we were going towards. And the path is not so much looking something again outside of us. It was more of an inside growth. And I think these things that we found is when we found the connection here to ourselves, it just aligned and it felt right. And then we just moved along with that. So
Dan, when you talk about that, you were already searching, which is absolutely right. So there's lots of transitions inside the different stages of searching. But you also talked about then we connected. I connected to my heart. I connected to myself. Was that the same red pill moment that you talked about earlier, or was that a different time when you felt, hey, I'm really connected to myself? Because clearly the retreat center that you have there and the life that you have now, which is amazing. I mean, it's really happy for you guys. It's great to see you living your best life. Clearly that's incredibly serendipitous, but it doesn't come unless you know yourself, unless you can connect to yourself, unless you can tap into your intuition, to your guidance. So when was that time for you, Dan, because you said that very quickly, but there's also a huge amount inside that of, I just, now I know myself, I connected to my heart, and then I just followed that. But how did you know that connection was made?
Well, the first thing that came to my mind when you asked that, honestly, was when I first met Anne.
And I'm saying, I'm trying to say things like that.
No, it's because we met, like we said, in Fiji. And we had met in the airport a few hours, the night before at the LA airport. That's the first time we actually talked with each other. And we had been communicating via Facebook. Hey, you go to Fiji? So am I. No. Go ahead, you're right. And I had such a strong feeling inside of me I remember being in Fiji, and we're obviously not staying in the same room. I'm staying in a room with some other guy, and she's staying in another room with another woman. After 2 or 3 days of sitting next to her in the meeting and sharing, and I literally had a dream that night that I was going to be with Anne together, and I was married at the time, so that was very challenging to me. I
Sure.
woke up literally in the middle of the night with my heart pumping. It's like, oh my God, I'm in trouble. But the attraction, and there was something, it was not so much just the attraction, it was just the connection was so strong that I could not ignore it. And then I had to be with her. We had to be together, and our life ever since we've been together. And I think it's the same thing for Anne. It just kind of took a life. I think our union, I think created, it was a multiplication by 100,
Right.
exponential.
But for you, that part of when you really got in touch with your heart also was triggered by or connected to your connection with Anne.
Yes.
And
Yes.
since then, your sense of, to use Anne's word from earlier, your intuition or your guidance has been much stronger, much clearer.
I've been listening at yes, I think I got in touch a lot more with that, with my intuition, whereas in the past I would think more with up there as opposed to down here and making decisions based on logic, right? Which is how most people operate.
Sure.
And then, of course, a lot of reading and experiences and meditation in India and this and that. And we're always reading something interesting and slowly understanding what's actually happening. It takes a little while, you start in this path of growth and you're hearing all these things, whether it's from Tony Robbins or you read a book, but you don't quite understand it fully until you experience it yourself. So,
And how long, Dan, do you feel? You said it takes a while. So you started on this path, and there was obviously an accelerant in Anne when you met Anne in Fiji and in that situation. But how long did you feel like from when you started on that path, when you started on this transformation or transition to intuition, to knowing yourself, to being in touch and to guidance until you got to the place where you had the confidence to make really strong decisions, really big decisions, important life moves based on that guidance?
yeah. How long did it take after that meeting?
No, I mean, like from when you first started on your path, you said you were already on your journey, right? And
I
you've been to
was
India, you've been reading. So as people get curious and they're starting on their growth journey, how long was it until you had enough, I don't know what you want to say, confidence, faith, trust to really be guided by that heart that you were connected to?
It's a little bit difficult to pinpoint how long. It's been a journey, honestly.
Hmm.
If I can think, the very first time they got introduced to spirituality, for example, was when I was backpacking and somebody handed me a book by Hermanus called Siddhartha. Probably familiar with that book. It's The Life of Buddha. It's the first time I ever laid my eyes on a spiritual book. And later moved to California and got introduced more to spirituality. So,
But Cherie, you have such an incredible past too. You're such a strong soul. I believe you've been connected to your intuition.
I think so. I
For
think
a long
so.
time.
But I was not really listening because I did not know to. I was really using my head and logic and what I thought needed to be done, which was fine. I think everything I did in my life, which was building this business, building a family, was amazing. And I don't regret 1 second of it. When I really started to understand more about myself and about the real, what I think is the meaning of life for me anyway, was actually when we did our move here to Costa Rica. Even the first 5 years Ann and I were together, we're so caught up in our, I want to use a cliche like the rat race or whatever, that we were so caught up in our busy business life and traveling. We're just always so busy. We had very, very busy life because you fill up your lives with stuff all the time, right?
Yeah.
On the weekend, what do you do? Oh, we'll go for dinner. We go see a movie. We go dinner. There's just always something.
Yep.
But you never take that much time for yourself and sit down with yourself and doing nothing really. Just kind of really, okay, well, where am I going with all that?
Yeah. Busyness is a drug like any other,
Exactly.
right? That distracts us and numbs us from ourselves.
And I think moving here to Costa Rica, well, I can't say that I stopped the busyness because I did build this retreat center, but there's definitely a lot more opportunity for solitude and quietness. We find ourselves like these last few weeks, it's a little quiet. We don't have any retreats right now. So Ann and I are alone here on the mountain often watching the sunset, and we don't watch TV. We don't do any of that.
Yeah.
We go to bed at 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah. Well, it gets dark at what, 5:30 there. It's on the equator.
Exactly. So 8:30, we're going up and we wake
Yeah,
up at 5
perfect.
and do our things. It's a completely different lifestyle. So
Yeah. I
the
noticed
past,
that when I have a
yeah,
place in New Mexico in the mountains, and when I'm there, I sort of measure the days by the sunrises and sunsets.
right,
You know, I'm
exactly.
always up on the roof. I have a deck on the roof watching the sunset, and then in the
Uh,
morning doing my journaling, watching the sunrise over the mountains.
Yeah,
So
time
there,
different meeting, kind of. You're not
yeah.
really on the clock, and on schedules and this and that.
So
So
Anne, what has that been like for you? Like, where do you think your life would have been if you guys hadn't taken these transitions? What do you see, or what would be different for you?
I think it's a pretty much a similar answer to Dan because I'm also been on the path for so long. I mean, I'm a seeker,
Hmm.
100%. I mean, my life is hasn't been a straight line from the beginning. So it would have been something else for sure. Our life would not have been stayed forever the way it was in California. I don't know. For me, I'm not the past. I don't really dwell in the past. I don't
Sure.
really. I'm always looking more forward, always, always. So the past is kind of gone. I'm so happy where I am now at this moment, and I'm always excited in my spirit. I'm always believing that the future is always brighter. There's always so many
Right.
opportunities. So I'm excited to be surprised by what the universe has to bring us, and
Yeah, it's
in the
definitely,
do my work to become a better human being. More.
yeah.
I'm
It's
very aware.
definitely been an exciting path the last few years, for sure. I love what you said too, is like as long as I'm staying focused on becoming a better human being,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's something we
It.
can
I want
do.
my purpose in life is to really release all the stories that I have in all the programs as much as I can, and because the freer I am, the better I can offer my gift to the world.
Absolutely.
The world is in need right now. It's really crazy what's going on everywhere, but I can't point fingers to anybody or anything if I can still do that. It starts here.
Right.
It's all in here. So that's why by building this center, by creating all what we're doing, is our contribution to the world.
Right.
That's our motivation. That's why we're both very passionate about that.
yes, yes,
Yeah. And
We
it's
can't.
wonderful to see the passion that you have for your purpose, which you really are making the world better through your retreat center. And also how much excitement you have in the moment of living like it feels to me, and please correct me if I'm wrong. It feels to me like you're really living your ideal life. Like you really have everything the way you want it and everything is working and humming. And of course, there's challenges and other things, but that you're so excited about your current life and the life that you're building for the future and the contribution and the enjoyment and taking care of yourselves, taking care of your community, taking care of your broader community through the world of people that are coming there for healing.
Yes.
It's a beautiful situation that you guys have built, allowed to be built through you, whatever you want to say, because clearly it wasn't any kind of master plan.
We're just like everybody else. If we were able to create that, anybody can do it. Seriously. Dan came from nothing. I came from nothing. I mean, at some point I was illegal in United States, single mom with 2 kids, no money, nothing, living in low-income housing. And that's why nobody ever gave us, either Dan or me, nobody ever gave us anything. We created everything from scratch, literally. So if we were able to do that, I so believe in every one of us that we can find that power within us and trust and move forward. Because again, we really know different than anybody human being.
Right. I think that the thing is that maybe to be really in touch with that inner guidance, to really be in touch on the spiritual path, because you said in some ways it's true that like you did it. In other words, no other like human being handed you something.
No.
But at the same time, there was a tremendous amount of serendipity. There was a
Yes.
tremendous amount of cooperation or leading from the universe or God or whatever you want to call it to have everything fall into place the way that it has for you where you are now in your life. But you had to get to a place as doing your own work, as Dan was saying, so that you could allow that in.
Yeah.
of course.
I think we trust. We're not afraid to say yes. I feel like, yeah, we are like puppets, and the universe is just keeps pulling strings, and we're not resisting. We say, okay, yes, let's go this.
Right.
Okay, yes, let's go this way. Because 6 years ago, you would have told us, oh, you'll be living in Costa Rica. You would have sold your house, your clinic, everything. And like, what? No way. I mean, I've never been to Costa Rica. I knew nothing of Costa Rica. So that's why we don't make plans. Because I feel I'm in my humanness. I don't have the wiseness of the universe of knowing what's best.
Mm,
I can only, if I create a plan, it's going to be created from my conditioning, from my fear, not from the plan of what would be better for us. So I make
right.
plans. I just trust that the universe knows what's best for us. And so
Right.
far it's been working.
Fantastically, if I have to say fantastically. Do
I know
you
it sounds kind of weird to talk like that, to say we're making no plans, because there's so many products out there that will tell you otherwise, right? Oh, write your 5-year plan. And I've done all these things, but
Sure, yeah.
ultimately, I think listening to your heart and following your intuition and start knowing yourself and knowing that you're doing the right thing, and you just things present itself, and we get to create this amazing, amazing life for ourselves.
And
Yeah, as long as you're not hurting anyone, that you're doing it from a place of authenticity, and that it's really for the best for everyone around, from nature, from everything, I think there is nothing you can go wrong. If you're
yeah,
connected, if you're doing, some for the good, I mean, what else is gonna go wrong?
yeah. I've reflected on this a lot recently, but the main message from Jesus, right? The main message from Jesus is love God. And then everybody else says love your neighbor. But actually, that's number three. It's love yourself, because it's love others, if you look at a modern translation, as you love yourself,
Yes.
right? So connect to the universe, connect to spirit, love God, make that connection, then take care of yourself. And then from that, take care of others, take care of your community as you
Yes.
take care of yourself. Right. But
Yes.
we often forget that part about taking care of ourselves, and we think we have to, and we have all these shoulds and how we need to be a certain way instead of following this intuition. I'm just learning that now. I've also came from nothing, went up through big business, very successful, but driven by not necessarily healthy things, patterns and triggers, but very
Right.
good at it. And this society rewards workaholism and these
Yeah.
things very, very well. And now making this heart journey of like, okay, what's next and what makes sense? And even if it doesn't make sense, what is it that my heart is? What's my full body yes? What am I going for? Like, I'm going to do a through hike, a major through hike in the next year or two, where I'm going to be gone for 5 or 6 months on the trail by myself.
Oh,
Right.
really?
And that doesn't make any sense, except that's what is coming that I want to do. Right. And
Do it.
yeah, and I'm planning it. We're going that direction. I'm having the conversations with my wife, and I'm headed in that direction. And even like getting this place in New Mexico. I had never been to New Mexico until
Ah,
2019. I went there out of desperation to a monastery, started to
Mm.
fall in love with the place, came back 2 years later as part of Boy Scouts. I was leader in Boy Scouts, and they had this huge camp in New Mexico. And I was doing a 12-day backpacking journey with my son and some other boys his age. And I fell in love with the terrain and the huge biodiversity. I've always loved the Rockies, and this is the very south end of the Rockies. And even saw they had ski resorts there. And I was like, well, I have skiing in New Mexico? Go figure. So
Yeah, they have some nice places there.
yeah. And then I had two friends that had from Nashville that had places there. So I talked to them, and then I ended up staying at one of those places on my sabbatical after I quit my job in this little tiny town called Arroyo Hondo. And while I was there, I just had this sense like, I'm going to start looking around for some place to buy. Nobody else in my family had ever been to New Mexico. My wife had never been to New Mexico. I bought a place in May of 2022.
Oh,
Shook hands.
wow.
Wasn't also not on the market, right? Had some guy, shook hands. It was going to be on the market, but it wasn't listed yet. And he was in the middle of remodeling it and bought it, not even knowing how I was going to pay for it. And then decided after that, oh, let's sell one of our properties in Tennessee, which had tripled in value.
It's exactly what happened with
Then
us.
a week before we closed in New Mexico, we closed here and used that money. And that during that time, one of the things that was really funny is not funny. I did my first medicine journey in August of 21 and blew my mind. Like so much fear, let go of so much fear, created so much more trust. And I had a conversation. The way I explained it, I had a conversation with God during that time. Like, okay, God, he's like, let go. It's okay to quit your job. Let go. And I mean, I was number 2 in a big corporate public company, making a lot. I had finally gotten to like the pinnacle. Like I'm making a lot of money. And I was killing myself. Like I was burned out. And he's like, let go. And I'm like, yeah, but then how am I going to make money? He's like, it's not for you to worry about. That's my job. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. I'm the breadwinner. I'm sort of traditional family, 3 kids, 2 of them adopted. And my wife's taking care of the family and I take care of the money. That's my job. You can't just say, trust me. You have to tell me. And so I'm having this argument with God, and he said, well, you're going to make money through real estate. And I was like, didn't even register. So that was August of 21. Like April or May of 22, we decided to sell this property. I mean, no idea what it's worth, and sold it for 3 times by
Wow.
September of 22, and bought that place in New Mexico, which is now also short-term rental and making some money finally. And so who knows, but I'm on that path. But I really am inspired by your journey, because it seems like you're so strong on that and living in all the questions, all the reasons that you could have given yourself not to do this. What about friends? What about family? What about all these things, all these reasons about why moving to Costa Rica would be crazy, have actually been positively impacted by that. You have all these wonderful new friends. Your family had an oasis during COVID that was created unbeknownst. You didn't know the need for it at the time, but then was created for your family. So it's really inspiring. I really appreciate you sharing your story, and I appreciate the light that you both are bringing into the world, what it is that you're supposed to bring into the world with joy and with contentment. I'm doing Artist Way right now. And Julia Cameron talks about that God's gift to us is our creativity, and our gift to God is what we do with it.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't let ourselves be stopped by resistance, and we actually do something and give back our gift. And I see you guys doing that, and that's really inspiring and brings me a lot of joy to see. So thank you for that. I have 2 more questions for you guys.
Okay.
One, and I'll let each of you answer this, and maybe you feel like you already have, and if so, it's okay. But if you could give one tool to our listeners, one thing that anybody could start with today to pick up, to start moving themselves in the life of intuition and following their guidance and really living their best life, what would that one tool be? One action, something that anybody could start with now to start moving gently in that direction.
Could reading a book be one of those tools?
Absolutely. Do you have one particular in mind, Dan, that was really meaningful for you?
From Michael Singer, where he talks about his life.
Oh, the surrender experiment.
Yeah, the surrender experiment, which is basically kind of our philosophy about life. And when you read this book and how his life just presented himself when he didn't really want that.
Yes.
And so that's us. And
Yeah.
so we really connected with that book.
Have you met him?
I've not met him. I would love to go see his temple. And
yeah, I think I'm going to head down there sometime with my daughter, with the convertible, and drive down there.
Love to go do a meditation or two over there.
Yeah, but that one, that's a great, and I can back Dan up here as well. I've read that book. It was very meaningful to me as well.
Yeah. Have you read this other
Untethered Soul?
Living from a place of surrender, and living untethered. It's the more like workshop, but it's so, because it gives you the tools how to do it.
Okay.
And that's Bible. I mean, when I walk up the mountains in the morning, I'm often listening to it on Audible, and it's just so inspiring. I need to get inspired every day by something, and listening to him to me is very inspiring.
And I just thought about one more tool.
Yeah.
And that is basically having some time for yourself.
Absolutely.
And we found that having a routine, like one of our routine, Anne is a lot better at it than me, but I started doing the same thing for several months now. We wake up at 5, around 5:30, 6 o'clock. We go up the mountain. It's about a 45-minute walk.
Nice.
Nobody, nothing. It's a little challenging because it's going up, so you're getting a good sweat. Usually listening to some audiobook, like Living Tethered or something, and now I'm reading another one. And it's just, and we get to the top of the mountain. We have an amazing ocean view, and we do some exercise there. And
barefoot on the ground.
Barefoot on the ground.
Yes. Grounded, connected, actually grounded. Yep.
And then I'll come back from this, and I'll go in we have our own gym that I made over here, and we'll spend 45 minutes in the gym doing a cold plunge. It's literally almost 2 hours to myself in the morning.
Nice.
Before my day starts. So that's you're really getting in touch with your body, with yourself. You have time to think, to really plan your day, decide at that point how your day is going to go. And it's just been really impactful for me. So I think these are the two.
So 2 things. One is inspirational reading or learning, and starting with Michael Singer specifically with the Surrender Experiment and Living Untethered, The Untethered Soul, 3 books. And then making sure you have some time, and maybe not everybody can do 2 hours, but you take some time for yourself first thing in the morning. And definitely you don't start with your phone or the television.
No.
Right. But you get up, you have some quiet time. I have morning practices as well, but that I do an audio journal, prayer, planning, connection to God time first thing when I get up. And then most of the time, the second thing is a 20-minute Joe Dispenza meditation.
Oh, yeah.
Or morning pages. And then it's running outdoors, right? Often when I take the dogs out first, I'll stand barefoot on the ground just to get that grounding, is interesting, like how physically important that is. People don't realize, like, we evolved barefoot and connected to nature, right? And I'll have an EMDR session with my therapist, and they'll say, go walk around outside barefoot right afterward to ground that,
And preferably on dirt or grass, not on concrete.
Yeah, that's right. In my backyard here with the grass. So definitely. So those are the 2 things. And anything that you would add, or do you agree with those? I know you had some input there, but
I agree with them. For me, would be don't listen to anybody.
Love it. So to really tune others out.
You are unique. Nobody knows what's good for you. They can have the best intention, but they're not you. They're going to give you recommendation based on their own wiring, their own
That's right. Their own patterns, their own fears, their own insecurities, right?
And that's not you.
Yeah.
So to trust, come to a place of connection with yourself so you can connect to your gut feeling and who cares whatever anybody think? It's your
Right.
life. If you're living for anybody, you're living
Right.
for yourself. So it's just don't give a shit what people think about you.
Yeah.
Literally.
No,
you
I
know?
think that's really valuable. And it's interesting because the first thing that comes up for me when I think about that, and probably for a lot of people, so, well, what about my wife, or what about my kids, or what about my parents, right? Or my siblings, people that are really close to me. And here's the thing that I know now is what the people that really love me, they want what's best for me as well.
Exactly.
Of course.
And our mission is to find that out. Like when Joseph Campbell says, the big question is whether we are going to say a hearty yes to our adventure. So I had this conversation with my wife about going on the trail for 5 months. She's not terribly excited about that. And I could say, well, it's my wife and I love her and therefore, but that's not it. It's a tough conversation. We had it in 2020 and she said, you have 3 teenagers. You've been on the road your whole career. No. And she was right.
Yeah.
Now I have 3 adults.
Perfect.
Right. And the last one is going to Scotland to school in September. Right. The other one's working, one's still in college, but they're adults. And I'm still young and fit, but I won't be forever. And so I had that conversation with her again, and then she'd get really upset. And before I had done my work, I would stop there because I'd be scared. Oh, my wife's upset. I got to stop. Right. But I said, no, because I know this is something I need to do. So what is it that's really bothering you? And what it was in the end is that she was afraid that I would change so much that I wouldn't want her when I came back. Right. And I said, no, that's not the intention at all. I'm coming home to you. And hopefully you can come do some of it with me. But this is something that's on my path. And I don't know how to explain it any different than that. But this is what I'm going to go do. And then we'll see what happens.
Is it then? Which work are you doing?
I mean, I think I'm going to start with the AT. I love the CDT. Continental Divide Trail runs right by my place in New Mexico. So that would be really cool to do the CDT, but it's also super tough. It's almost 3,000 miles and a lot of snow and ice. So I think about I have a sense I may do all 3 before it's done, but the AT is the easiest one. The downside is it has the most people, which I'm really trying to figure out how I want to do it in a way that I want to do it without banging into too many people. But there's also my family is largely in this area from Georgia to Pennsylvania, right? Largely, not completely, but largely. So there's probably a lot of people that would join me for a day or 2 along the way.
Oh, great.
Which would be pretty cool as well. So it's coming together. And part of me really wants to do the planning and preparation. And part of me just wants to show up and go because it's less known that way and more exploring. But I think it is important to be willing to trust those things. And there's a lot of reasons why it doesn't make sense right now, but it's also, we have to wait and see. We have to follow those things and see where it takes us. And I'm really excited and I feel alive. That's the thing for me is like Byron Katie talks about and Michael Singer talks about, if this energy is rising up in you, right? The way he talks about, then you're in touch. And I can see that in both of you when you talk about your life there in Nosara, which is wild that you're the only place I've been in Costa Rica is right where you guys are.
And next time you know where we are, come for a visit.
Well, absolutely. And maybe come with my wife for a retreat down there sometime. Yeah, healing. It would be really wonderful. I was talking with friends yesterday about going to Costa Rica. I said, you got to go to Nosara. So it's the only place I've been, but I've loved it. Last question. Where can our listeners find out more about you guys? Are you on social? You have websites? If they want to come there for a retreat or if they want to get in connection with you, where is the right place for them to do that?
We have our website,
which is
tierraencantadacr.com. So Tierra, T-I-E, 2 R's, Tierra, Encantada, E-N-C-A-N-T-A-N-D-A. It means T-N-D-A. CR for Costa Rica, CR. And it means enchanted land. Tierra.
I knew the Tierra. I didn't know the Encantada. Oh, that's wonderful. And we'll put that in the show notes as well.
And then we have Instagram also. That's Tierra Encantada CR or Anne Bernard. I think it's under my name too.
As well on Instagram. Okay. And we'll add those in the show notes as well. But I've really enjoyed it. It's so inspiring to get to spend this time with you guys. And I love when I started this podcast, I followed Tim Ferriss's advice, which is start with guests that are interesting to you and don't worry so much about your listeners. You guys are super interesting to me and it's been really inspiring. So thank you very much for living your creativity, living your gifts, and then sharing them with the world because of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Art.
Thank you. You too. I'm excited about your life.
Yeah.
I
awesome.
hope our paths will cross somewhere in this
I have a feeling that they will.
Yeah.
And that would be wonderful. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Art.
Thank you so much. Gracias.
Bye-bye.
I can't wait to hear what action you are taking. Connect with me on LinkedIn or our website, lifeintransition.online, and let me know. Let a friend know too. it could be a huge encouragement to them and keep you on the track. Thank you so much for joining me today. Make sure you subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, and it would mean a lot to me if you left a review and shared this episode with a friend. If you want to learn more about me and what I do when I'm not podcasting, please visit me at artblanchford.com. Thank you for listening. Together, let's make the most of life in transition.